Morning, guys. Happy Thursday to you. I'm being told that today is the last day that I can give you work. So the last thing I really want to go over with you guys and allow you enough time to finish your term papers is parking lot design. Things that you got to keep in mind with parking lots. We're going to go over what ingress and egress is, the number of parking spaces, size of parking spaces, accessibility, aisle width, pedestrian circulation, special vehicle access, off-street loading areas, waste disposal, drainage, landscaping, and lighting. People and vehicles got to be able to enter and exit your project site. This is the ingress and egress. It means the entering and leaving of the site. But the access should be controlled. The number and size of entrances and exits must be carefully planned to reduce the conflict between the street traffic and traffic accessing the site. State and local governments regulate access to public roadways and often reinforce restrictions on the width, slope, radius, and pavement composition of the access road. Regulations can also require a commitment to perform alterations to the public road, such as adding turning lanes, street lights, pavement markings, before access roads can be even built. Permits called encroachment permits are often required in order to connect a roadway to a public road. So they're regulated by the state, local governments for the width, slope, drive radius, pavement composition, things of this nature. When planning entrance and exits, try to discourage through traffic to minimize traffic. You don't want people coming in to cut corners and stuff like that. A good rule of thumb is that if the property will have less than 5,000 vehicle visits each day, use only one two-way or two one-way driveways. Local and state regulations will often specify design specifications such as the distance to the street intersections and other drives to keep traffic from plugging up. In general, locate drives as far away from street intersections and other driveways as possible. Nearby intersections can increase the likelihood of car accidents at the driveway. The number of parking spaces, that's dictated by local codes and it's dependent upon the use of the building. Some example requirements, size of the parking spaces, parallel, they're the most difficult ones to access. Avoid if possible. You got to cut them real wide. You need a wider spot to cut in and out. 90 degrees, most spaces per area. Typical is 9 foot by 18 feet or 19 feet. Excuse me, I am sorry. It's late for me. More difficult to access than angles. Not recommended for short-term parking. Takes too much time to get in and out. That's basically all it's boiled down to. Angled parkings, size varies according to angle. 60 degrees is the most common though. Accessible parking required. Total number of parking spaces provided in a parking facility, 1 to 25, you only need 1. That number increases all the way up to 500 to 1,000, and then it's 2% of the total. 1,000 and over, 20 plus 1 for each 100, or a fraction thereof over 1,000. That comes from the Americans with Disabilities Act and the Architectural Barriers Act guidelines. Every facility must provide at least the number of accessible parking spaces indicated by this table. So, for accessibility, accessible car spaces must be at least 96 inches wide and accessible van spaces must be at least 132 inches. Each accessible space must be adjacent to a 60-inch wide aisle on an accessible route to the building, meaning a walk-up space. Accessible car spaces must be, how do you put this? So that the van spacing is to the right side, so as they don't have to back in. Aisle width is dictated by local codes. Two-way aisles are preferable because people are going to use them for two ways anyways. If you don't believe me, go to the Walmart and just watch people. Typical two-way aisle is 24 feet wide. Maybe less for one-way traffic though. Accessible car spaces must be at least 96 inches wide, and the van spaces must be 132 for these also. Pedestrian circulation. Separate pedestrian from traffic must be provided and provide accessible route to entrance from parking, public transportation, and adjacent buildings. Typical walkways widths are 3 foot wide for one-way and 5 foot for two-way. The lower right picture shows a pedestrian barrier which can improve pedestrian safety from getting run over by cars. For pedestrian circulation, aligned parking spaces or easy pedestrian movement. It is preferable to align parking spaces so that pedestrians walking to the building from the parking lot will walk along the aisles and not between parked cars. Special vehicle access. There has to be a plan in place for special vehicles that may access the site, such as fire engines, city buses, school buses, tractor trailers, garbage trucks. Research is required for road widths and turn radii and parking. It's preferable to align parking spaces so that pedestrians walking to the building never have to cross in front of heavy or special traffic. Off-street loading area. Plans for an access for loading and unloading of products and materials. The best practices: locate loading area away from traffic and locate loading area out of view. You got to check with local requirements though. Most commercial facilities receive shipped packages. Local regulations may require that the off-street loading areas be provided. If you need to provide off-street loading, you'll probably want to locate the loading areas away from vehiculars and pedestrian traffic just to avoid lawsuits and so forth. Waste disposal. You'll want to put those around back, hidden from view. Plan for dumpster and garbage truck access. Best practices: screen dumpster from view. Fences, walls, landscaping. Again, you got to check with local regulations. Most commercial facilities will need to provide an area for required dumpsters and adequate access for the waste disposal trucks, because the waste disposal facilities can be unsightly. Local regulations require some type of screening, which can include a fence or a wall, and landscaping. Okay. Drainage. Traditional design slopes pavement towards storm drains. LID techniques: reduce impervious surface area, permeable pavement, permeable paver blocks, drain to adjacent buffers, strips, and swales, or drain to nearby bioretention areas. Since parking areas are typically impervious, they typically generate a large volume of stormwater. This stormwater often must be managed on site. Some of the LID techniques that I just mentioned can be used to decrease stormwater volume and increase the quality of the stormwater as it slowly migrates back into the water system. We'll discuss some of these methods to handle large volumes of stormwater later. Landscaping design. Like all aspects of a building project, it's controlled by rules and regulations because parking lots often have a negative visual impact. Many municipalities have adopted regulations that require efforts to reduce the negative impact. Landscaping is often specified to screen the parking lot from adjacent streets, so people aren't looking at all the commercial parking lots and seeing the ugliness of commercialism. Codes often require landscaping within a parking lot as well to break up the expanse of pavement. These areas are called parking islands. Landscaping is often required at the base of the building, between the parking area and the building, to provide a visual break between the pavement and the building so that the pavement does not continue up to the building wall. Lighting. This improves the safety often required by local regulations, provides light to illuminate property, but does not illuminate the adjacent property so that you're not angering your neighbors. On this site plan, we can't do this. Shoot, this is just one more thing we can't do because of the Rona. Alright, so we've gone over the ingress and egress, number of parking spaces, size of parking spaces, accessibility, aisle width, pedestrian circulation, special vehicle access, off-street loading area, waste disposal, drainage, landscaping, and lighting. Guys, I want you to use the rest of this time to finish up your term papers, and please get them into me. I've been checking with some of you, and some of you have been having problems. I realize that you've still got a ways to go. They do not have to be turned in today or tomorrow. You've got the rest of this week to get them to me. But please don't wait till the last minute to turn them in case there's some revisions I want you to make to them. All right? Okay, any questions, please contact me and email me, guys.